How's it going, everyone? My name is Jay and welcome back to another next gen video. Today we will be going into set 4. Now if you guys have really noticed, set 4 and set 5, which is technically also phase 1 booster packs, are now available on the GameCrafter website. As you know, it has been a long time, so I do apologize, but in this video we will be going into set 4, which I believe is tied for the largest set, 75. I believe set 2 also has 75, but I can't really remember. But set 4 does introduce 2 new types. We got the Anti-Hero, and we also got Terra, which is a new type for the essential cards. So I'll be going through each card, reading its effect, and I'll be explaining kind of like the thought process and what you could use alongside here. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first card of the set has an alternate art, and it has the same look to it. Claymore, King of Emeralds. Reoccurring, you can rest one of your Fable or Human units to negate an essential card. For each essential card negated, add a counter to this card. Once per turn, you can remove X amount of counters from this card to gain armor and attack equal to the amount of counters removed. So Claymore here allows you to play around with the new type or archetype Fables, which essentially are the Emeralds. And it just allows you to keep buffing up Claymore for heavier attacks and just kind of set it behind. So this is anti-heroes are more a little aggro in the late game, but you're kind of building up your units with counters and trying to counterplay. I would say it's like around mid-range compared to most of the meta right now, which is a lot of aggro and swarm. So Claymore does give a new look to it. And on speaking new look, this is the alternate art where it's sitting on the throne. The next person is Rain, King of the Tribes. Reoccurring, you can rest a villain unit you control to deal perma-damage to any unit on the battlefield equal to the attack value of the rested unit. If you use this effect, it cannot attack until the next turn, and this card cannot be destroyed by effects. So Rain, also a very strong card, and it also helps with the mid-range with the control with villain units. You can just deal perma-damage to any unit or even just destroy units equal to the attack value of your villain unit that you rested. And villains do tend to have more attack than armor, so you'll be hitting lots of damage, and the fact that it's perma-damage, meaning that it stays there, it is quite impressive and possibly very hard to overcome. And for this not being able to be destroyed by effects, Rain is going to cause a reign of terror, pun intended. And there is the alternate art. The next person is Eclipse. Once per turn, you can banish 2 villain units from your hand to revive any character from your fallen. They become a Necro, and their effects are negated. So basically, Eclipse, similar to Abomination style, by bringing up new characters. However, this is bringing people from the banish zone, and it also helps because it brings in more Necro units to your field, which is important because if you're running a villain Necro deck, which is also a new type in here, then it creates more units, more support for that. So it kind of gives that aggro swarm, while also kind of low-key a little bit of control. Not so much because again you're just swarming and you're going hard, and it just basically helps you from there. And I apologize, not banish. I meant your fallen. You're banishing two villain units from your hand to revive a character. So it could just be anyone, and it's just it could hit really hard in the late game. However, the next character is Blood Moon Beatrix. Reoccurring, all Necro units you control gain +2/+2. Once per turn, you can discard a unit from your hand to the fallen to know to call a Necro token with the same gen level, armor, attack, and speed as the discarded unit. So the first thing about this is the reoccurring. It works well with Eclipse because then you have another Necro character who gets that +2/+2 alongside Eclipse having +2/+2. That makes him a 15, 16, and 7 stat character, which is already an amazing card. You equip a card like, oh my god, the that one glove, you know, it makes him immune to it, and it'll just be hard for him to overcome it. So definitely the Eclipse having the Blood Moon Beatrix there is quite impressive, and Blood Moon Beatrix does help that strong, aggressive control swarm necro gameplay. As well as its second ability, once per turn you can discard a unit from your hand to fall into notable called necro token. So you can discard basically, I guess, a Gen 4 villain unit, and that card will just basically become insane because it'll have the token will have the same gen level, armor, attack, and speed. It won't have the effect, but when you're just creating beefier monsters, units on the field, alongside the +2/+2 giving the necro boost, it's gonna be hard to get over. And so that's why Blood Moon Beatrix and Eclipse are kind of like your dynamic duo. You could literally have Blood Moon Beatrix be there first rather than Eclipse, but either one works really well. Just the more necro you have, and the more you can protect your necros, it'll be really good to have. Next, we're going to go into Shiyu, the Reborn Emperor. Reoccurring, every time you draw a card, you can choose one of the following. Gain +3 health, deal 3 permadamage to a unit, gain +1/+1. If you control another hero unit, this card cannot be destroyed by effects. So of course, we have the hero, a true hero of the game, and it's just as broken. Every time you draw a card, you can just it activates one of its effect. And basically that's every turn because you're drawing every turn. So you could be gaining health, you can be dealing damage, you can be gaining a stat boost. And this card can't be destroyed because if you have more heroes on the field with this card, then it just basically becomes save. So Shiyu is definitely a good card to have for heroes when they're playing late game. It is hard to kind of bring him out. It is a Gen 5. However, when you do have him, you kind of want to have him in the back. You don't really want to bring him to the front as much unless you have counters or protection, because Shiyu is a very important card for hero units, especially for control decks. It doesn't necessarily have to be pure one archetype, like, you know, look with like the Winters or the Mask Arsenals. It could be in any hero deck or hero hybrid in that case. But yeah, Shiyu is a very important card with that 3 effects every time you draw a card. And if your deck revolves around drawing more cards, then it becomes even more powerful. So Shiyu is important to have in that. Next card is Lipsticks. Every time your opponent uses an essential card, add 1 Lipsticks counter to this unit. You can remove 4 counters from this unit to activate any essential card from your deck. If this card falls, then we'll call 2 Gen 1 2/2/2 hero tokens. So definitely a lot of token plays in here. So obviously when she falls, she'll be able to have 2 of those Gen 1 2/2/2 tokens, kind of just as backup. But then you're also having kind of like counters to people who like the control decks or mid-range who like to you control with the essential cards, with prompts or casters. Basically, you'll just be able to gather up more counters to this card, which then you can also remove, so you can activate your essential card from your deck, which could be very important, because if you need a board wipe, you could get a board wipe from your deck. If you need to negate some cards, you could get a negate from your deck. So Lipsticks does come in clutch, but it's more clutch when it's against an opponent who likes to use a lot of essentials, kind of like the Spades deck. The next card we have is the Divine Fighter. Now of course every set has its fighter support class, but I believe this is finally the one that fighter decks have been waiting for. If you control more than 3 fighter units, you can notable call this card from your hand. This card gains immunity for 2 turns. When this card is played, you can sacrifice any number of fighter units on your side of the field and separately add their armor and attack, and the total becomes this card's new armor and attack. So there is a lot to take in here. The first things first, this card could just be played as a notable call. If you got more than 3 fighter units on your side of the field. So basically it's just just set up your fighter units. I believe there are some fighter units where you could kind of notable call each other, which is also really good. And you can just have the Divine Fighter come in here, and it also has immunity for the first 2 turns, so it can't be banished, destroyed, or stunned or anything like that, even when it's one that's played. So it becomes basically immune to that. And then you can sacrifice any number of fighter units on your side of the field. So if those 3 fighter units have like a combined, let's say 17 armor, 18 attack, and that's it actually, because the speed it doesn't change, then it becomes basically a 17-18 stat. That's basically what it said in the second effect does, which is kind of why you want to kind of swarm your field with your fighter units, because the more fighter units you have, the stronger this card gets. And if you can get that stat to boost with the Flying Fighter, and it has that immunity for the next turn, it can potentially become one of the strongest units on your field. Probably it will become the strongest unit, and your opponent will have to have a response to that, kind of making you have an upper hand in the game. But that is the Defiant Fighter, and something that obviously the fighter decks really needed for that support. The next card is Avalanche. Once per turn, you can add Gen 1/1/1 rock token as material to any unit on the field. If there are 3 or more rock tokens attached to a character, destroy that character. So essentially saying you're just piling up rocks here and there on top of the character. And this card, basically, if you just have it in the back and you just keep adding rocks to rock tokens to a unit, you can potentially just keep destroying it. And just the tokens itself, there is a lot of tokens encountered in this set. I wanted to play around with that, and I believe Avalanche was a great example of me using that. So it's pretty straightforward. The next card is Fusion. Recurring, you can upgrade cards by sending the following materials from your hand to the Fallen. So this does count as your normal play. However, if Fusion is in your hand and you have a Gen 2 and 1 in your hand, you can literally just play your Fusion in the first turn, which is again really amazing to have a Gen 3 in your first turn. No matter how you get it, you just kind of have like that already an upper hand, an upper advantage with Fusion. So Fusion is definitely a really, I would say, a staple card in Swarm decks. But essentially also Anti-Hero is also really good. But you can definitely have Fusion, and it works with any deck since you don't need to kind of discard, like a certain type. So Fusion is very versatile in that. The next card is Neon, the Rising Samurai. Reoccurring, every time your opponent notable calls a unit to the field, just add +1/+1 counter to the any unit. So again, you're just buffing up your units. You can buff up this unit. Just keep adding counters, and the stronger it becomes. Next card is Cobalt. You can notable call this card from your hand if you control another Fable unit. So giving strength to the Fable unit decks, Cobalt is that kind of extra player, extra swarm. So again, you can get the Fusion with the Cobalt, which is again really good to have first turn. The next card is Wi-Fi. Once per turn, you can discard a neutral unit from your hand to negate an essential card. So again, if you're running pure neutrals, Wi-Fi allows you to have that control in the game. If your opponent likes to keep throwing essential cards, Banishing Portal, Super Deep Impact, the Real Hat Trick, Magic, anything like that, Wi-Fi is there to kind of negate that and give you the upper hand in there. You will have to work around the neutral of discarding a neutral, but either way, it is a very good card if for neutral only decks, in my opinion. Next, we have Judd, the Emerald Executioner. You can sacrifice a neutral or Fable unit on your side of the field to deal damage equal to the unit's attack to both players' health. So, playing on to the neutral part, you do get damage from this, but if you have more health life than your opponent, then you could potentially, win the game late game with this one. If you're sacrificing a neutral or Fable unit on your side of the field with a high attack, then like this could also include the Gen 4s that we were talking about with like 15 attack. So let's just say you have 16 and your opponent has 14, 15. You can literally just win the game with 1 health because you dealt more damage to them easily with this card. So Judd is, again, playing with the neutral card. Judd is a good card to have in the late control game. Next card is Bunny Hop. Once per turn, you can notably call a Gen 2 2/2/3 Bun-E token to the field. At the end of your turn, for every Bun-E token you control in the field, draw X amount. So again, you can see where we're going here. You can play Bunny Hop with Shiyu. However, this card can also just be played as a way to swarm the field with lots of tokens. But there are also benefits to having the tokens because you can draw that X amount. So Bunny Hop allows you to kind of, set up your field, set up Shiyu, and just keep drawing cards basically until you have enough to, play around with it and kind of just take control of that mid game. The next card is the Fallen Fighter. Once per turn, you can notably call red, blue, or yellow fighter from your hand or Fallen. So playing along, you can easily get one of the first original 3 fighters, to the field, notable called. So Fallen Fighter is the essential card for fighter decks. Next card is Photon Twin Quantum. If this card is discarded from your hand, deal 3 damage to your opponent's health. This one is kind of plays onto the support with the with Ohm in previous set, because Ohm does support with the dealing damage with the discards, and then you can just deal an extra damage with Photon Twin Quantum. Next card is Photon Twin Quantin. Once per turn, you can discard 1 actual unit from your hand to deal 2 damage to any unit or player. So these two will just play along. You're literally dealing 3 damage with this one, and then an extra 2 damage with this one, so it's 5 damage. You could literally play in 1 turn, in my opinion. So the twins work well on that. If you just want to go super to the aggro to the face. Next card is Twins On. When this card is played, you can notably call or upgrade any villain unit who are part of a society from your hand. Society cards haven't been getting that much love, so wanted to help out with that. When this card is played, you can notably call or upgrade any villain unit. So villain societies, that is because I forgot to mention that one. But this also gives an edge to death row inmate cards. So just any players who like to play death row inmates, which also is a deck that is not really strong in the current meta. Maybe Twins On is the one to help around that. Speaking of different groups, factions, Gripjaw, the Fierce Galactic Punishers. The Galactic Punishers get an extra card. When this card is played, notable call a Gen 3 or lower Galactic Punisher unit from your deck. This helps out because the Galactic Punishers didn't really have that much support with swarming the field. They were more mid-range. However, it was still pretty slow in the current meta where everyone just kept swarming stronger monsters and just controlling the field. So Galactic Punishers doesn't really have that upper edge. So Gripjaw is there to help. Mech Handy. If this card is banished from the field, you can notable call or upgrade an ally villain unit who is part of a society. So again, Mech Handy works along with Twins On. You basically just helping out the society cards in there. Next card is Bar Run. Both players reveal the bottom card of their deck. Whoever has the lowest amount deal 5 damage to any player or unit. This was just basically by chance. It's the lowest amount. It refers to the the cost to it. Like lowest amount does not include the stat. It revolves around the thing. I guess you got to be more specific on that. But I just wanted to clarify that one. Next card is Spudling. Add a -1/1 counter to a unit on the field. So I mean, this one is pretty self-explanatory. If people keep buffing, you got Spudling there to just keep, just add at least a -1/1. Next card is Harn. Select a unit on the field with a counter on it. Add a -2/2 counter to the targeted unit. Again, this card can play along with Spudling. You're basically adding a -3/3 if you match it with Spudling. Next card is Blue Flame. During the battle turn, if this card is in the battle area, you can retreat Blue Flame to retreat a Gen 1 or Gen 2 enemy unit. So again, Blue Flame, just a good little control here and there. Red Flame. When this card is played, it can attack right away. Just heavy damage. Look at this: 1 armor, 5 attack, 3 speed. Red Flame could be a menace in villain aggro decks. Orange Flame. If you control another Gen 1 villain unit, deal damage equal to the attack value of one of your Gen 1 units on the field. These two flames are going to be a pain in the ass. I can see these being played a lot in aggro decks for sure. Next is Super Supporter. This is a different one, I'll tell you that. If there are 3 different supporter units in your Fallen, you can auto call a Gen 4 unit from your deck. So this kind of forces the play of adding supporter cards, which really, let's be honest here, you're not really seeing any supporter cards being played unless it's Red Hero Supporter, which allows you to discard 2 cards to destroy 1 card on the field, I believe. But other than that, the others don't really work out. But if there are 3 different supporter units in your Fallen, you can notable call a Gen 4 unit from your deck. So Super Supporter is a deck I probably want to try building around, because I feel like it's a very unique way of getting stronger cards depending on the condition. Next card is Bomb Boy. If this card is KO, deal 5 damage to all units on the field. I mean, bomb. Next is Bomb Bro. Both players select an enemy unit on the field, add a bomb token as material to that unit. If they move to the battle area, they are destroyed. This one I really like, because then your opponent basically just has a useless unit. They could use it to defend, because the defense doesn't really mean that it goes to the battle area. However, it does stop like heavy attackers, like say any Gen 5s or Gen 4s, from entering the battle area, or else they're destroyed. It does have its I guess downsides, because some cards won't be destroyed because of their effects of not being able to be destroyed by effects. So you might have to select carefully, but Bomb Bro can come clutch. Next card is Psychos V1. You and your opponent discards a random card from their hand. Self-explanatory. Psychos 2. Discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Okay, now we're fucking around with the opponent. And then Psychos V3. Look at your opponent's hand and discard 2 cards. If they have 2 or no cards in their hand, send the top 2 cards from their decks into Fallen. Neutral, again, you're just controlling with this one. You're just trolling your opponent with this card. Next one is Swirl Supporter. You and your opponent draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Again, neutrals can play around with this as well with the Super Supporter, because this does kind of support cards. So it is a very interesting play, but it does give an interesting build for supporter decks, if that even becomes a thing. Next is Bork Moneymaker. Reoccurring. Any excess damage after a battle with this card and another unit is dealt to your opponent's health. So this is kind of similar to, I don't know if it's piercing damage for Yu-Gi-Oh, but basically if this card deals damage to an enemy unit that has 5 armor, then basically the remaining 3, which is 8-5, obviously it's 3, goes to your opponent's health. So again, more for the aggro filling units. Next card is Bali. When this card is played, return an enemy unit to their owner's hand. Self-explanatory. Clownski. Every time this card takes damage, gain +2 attack. It's a Gen 2 with 5 armor, but if you can keep buffing it with armor stats, then it can just become a very strong character. Also, the speed is pretty high for a Gen 2. High, or at least average. But very good. Next card is Death Row Inmate Kid. So we're giving more support to Death Row Inmates. So when this card falls, notable call a get Death Row Inmates unit from your Fallen. So this one, new way to kind of be very essential for Death Row Inmate cards. It gives a new life, because then now you can also bring Kill Steal from the Fallen when Death Row Inmate Kid falls. So it's a new way. It's a new way to kind of give life to Death Row Inmates deck type. Next card is Big Thugs. If this card is equipped with a weapon, this card cannot be destroyed by KO. Again, this is paying homage to Big Thugs, obviously from set 1, and kind of plays along with the fact of having Doom Glove with this, with the new Big Thugs. But yeah, no, this is it just becomes very strong to get over. Next card is Hammer Shot. Reoccurring. Every time you draw a card, you may choose to burn it to deal damage to the player, or a unit equal to the cost or gen level of that card. So the cost, gen level, same thing, are basically the same thing as the top right. basically, you know, you can deal either 1 to 4, 4 damage. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to burn a 0 cost, but it's definitely going to be either 1 to 4. Again, you know, it's a neutral, very self-explanatory. Next card is the Lost Ent. Once per turn, add a leaf token to both fields. Each leaf token can be sacrificed to draw a card. This can also play along with Shiyu. Shiyu and Bunny Hop, you just keep drawing cards and activating Shiyu's effect. Next card is Mutant Fighter. Once per turn, you can notable call a Gen 1 1/1 fighter token. This one again, fighter support. The Lost Huntsman's. When this card is played, destroy all Gen 1 and Gen 2 hero and villain cards. Anti-heroes and neutrals are protected from this, but unfortunately for popular decks with the hero and villain, it's not quite. So let's go on to the next one here. Haley, Emerald Assassin. Once this card is played, deal damage equal to the number of cards in your hand to any unit or player. Now we are getting to the Emerald archetype. This one kind of plays with just dealing damage, kind of mid-range again with the control, but it is a once per turn. Oh my bad, this is once this card is played, so you can only use this effect once, which is still pretty good with the stats 5/7/4. It does still seem to be a really strong card in my opinion. Next card is Rogue Viper. If this card is about to fall, you can sacrifice another anti-hero unit. For a 6/6/5, you could just sacrifice another Gen 1, and I'll explain why. Because some Gen 1 Emerald or some Gen 1 units, anti-hero units, are benefit from falling. So that's why Rogue Viper could be a really good one here. Next one is Eridon Emerald Knight. Reoccurring every time an ally Emerald unit KOs another unit, gain +1/+1. This one is not really as strong, but it does allow you to sort of buffing up this character. It could be a sleeper. I mean, for a stat with 3/3/3, it's still pretty good for Gen 2. So again, you can just buff it up in the back while your other units deal a lot more damage and just KOs your opponent. But then again, this is kind of having this card early game and not really bringing it up or using it until late, until it's super buff. Next card is Serant, Emerald Alchemist. Reoccurring, whenever you play a caster card, gain +1/+1. So you could also be playing a control. This is why I say it's a mid-range, because you're also controlling the game while also dealing some sort of damage. So that's why I like to make the anti-heroes kind of like that, or at least the emeralds. A different way for emeralds to play. For anti-heroes to play. So definitely, I like that idea. But yeah, that's Serant. Next card is Cornel, an Emerald Unit or Emerald Recruit. Draw a card. Basically, just self-explanatory. I mean, you probably won't see this only in the Emerald decks. You could probably see this in any deck, because drawing cards is really important. Next card is Eranos, Emerald Druid. Copy the effect of an ally Emerald unit. This again, you could just draw a card. You could use Serant, Eridon, so definitely for a Gen 1 to copy another card, or even King Claymore. So again, a really strong card. Next card is Galdon, Emerald Spearman. If your opponent controls more than 2 units, notable call this card to the field. This one is similar to the other Spades card, or another card, I can't remember, that allows you to just notable call it. This is just kind of, Emeralds don't really have that much cards to notable call, so this kind of gives you that equal playing advantage. Corwin, Emerald Bard. Add an Emerald unit from your deck to your hand. This comes in handy when you really want to have that one Emerald card in your hand when you don't really need it. Sometimes you won't get the Gen 3, so you can add that. Sometimes you won't get the Gen 2 or Gen 1, or even you won't even get King Claymore. So that's why Corwin allows you to get that search. Next card is Gripjaw Jr., Son of the Emerald. Both players shuffle their hand back into their deck and draw 5 cards. This, I remember, I play tested Emeralds with my one friend, just one game though. And Gripjaw Jr., I just made a quick deck with the Emerald cards, and we did lose. However, this card right here came in clutch because there were times where I had no cards in hand, and my opponent kept drawing cards. So it kind of refreshed, because then you draw 5. If you have no cards in your hand, you just draw 5 new cards. If you had 1 card, you can just shuffle that back in, draw 5 new cards. So it's a good reset, good refresh. And if your opponent just keeps drawing cards, refresh their hand. So that's a good way for that. Now we're gonna go on to the essential cards. We got Emerald Throne Room. It's the new type for essentials. Terra. This card lasts for 5 turns. Reoccurring, you can discard an Emerald unit from your hand to negate any card effect your opponent activates. So how Terra works is that they have a certain time limit, so this card lasts for 5 turns. And then it shows what it does. The Reoccurring, you can discard an Emerald unit from your hand to negate any card effect your opponent activates. So yeah, again, this Emerald Throne Room, if you have extra Emerald units in your hand that can benefit from it, then you know that's pretty good. So Emerald Throne, you kind of get that mid range. Next card is Tribal Throne Room. Terra. Lasts for 5 turns. Reoccurring. You can banish a unit you control to notable call a unit that is 1 gen higher than the banished unit from your hand. You cannot banish the same unit you notable call with this effect. So you can banish a unit you control to notable call a unit that is 1 gen higher than the banished unit. So let's say you banish a gen 3, then you can just notable call a gen 4 basically. Actually, you know what? We're gonna go through this together, because I feel like I also don't know what is going on here. You can banish a unit you control to notable call a unit that is 1 gen higher than the banished unit from your hand. Basically, I guess, yeah, no, it makes sense. You just cannot banish the same unit you notable called with this effect. So, I mean, okay, that makes sense. It'd be too broken for that, but yeah, basically, you just be able to notable call. You just be able to notable call a higher than that you banish. Next card is It's a Field Real Estate. Terra. This card lasts for 3 turns. Reoccurring, all units you control that enter the battle area gain +1/+1. So this gives just an extra boost in the battle area. And basically the counters no, it's not a counter. So it is only when they enter the battle area they gain +1/+1/+1. Next card is The Shrine. This card lasts for 3 turns. Once per turn, you can gain life equal to the number of Fable units on the field. This is for Fable cards, and for Fable decks. This includes the Emeralds, and also the Fusion and the rest of those. Next card is a weapon, the Generation Sword. When this card is equipped to a unit, upgrade it with a unit from your deck that is 1 gen higher. This is very good. This is one of the cards I also use in the quick Emerald deck I used. And when you're lacking, when you're falling behind, this card will come in clutch, because if your opponent has Gen 4s and you have a Gen 3 and you're trying to get up there, the Generation Sword helps with that, with that. And this doesn't count as your normal card, normal upgrade, because it doesn't. This is the effect it plays, so it doesn't count as a normal play, and they'll usually say if it counts as your normal or not. So, Generation Sword, really good. Dimensional Claymore, the weapon. The equipped unit gains this effect. Reoccurring, you can rest one of your hero or anti-hero units to negate an essential card. For each essential card negated, add a counter to this card. During your turn, you can remove X amount of counters from this card. For each counter removed, draw a card. There's a lot to take in here. However, you're resting. So resting means basically you're just it's kind of like a stun. However, they just you just can't be able to. Actually, I feel like it is like a stun, except you're doing it yourself. So when you're resting, you can't bring during that same turn you can't bring them up or use them. You just can't use them. You can't bring them to attack or defend. So basically, you're resting them. And you're negating essential cards basically, and for each essential cards you're adding a counter, and then you can remove X amount of counters to draw a card, which again works with the Shio deck, so you can try it out with that. The Dimensional Claymore. Next card is Pile of Emeralds. Caster. Reoccurring, every time you call an Emerald unit, add an Emerald counter to this card. You can remove 3 counters to notable call an Emerald unit from your Fallen, or you can remove 5 counters to notable call an Emerald unit from your deck. So this is why Emerald don't have that many Swarm cards, because then it gets broken with Pile Emeralds. And essentially, since Pile Emeralds is reoccurring, it doesn't have like a amount of times. It's a really really good card. I mean, obviously the effect is, I guess like took inspiration from Gateway of the Six, from Yu-Gi-Oh with the Six Samurai. So that's what I kind of wanted that feeling to be, with Pile of Emeralds. Next card is Emerald Defense. All units you control gain +10 defense. This prompt card gets super broken because that +10 defense is insane. It becomes super insane because they gain it and they don't really lose it. So it is it is a really really strong card that we need to rethink about. Now that I'm realizing, but Emerald Defense is super super tough. Next we have the Winter Summonings. It's a prompt card. Normal call any winter units that were discarded this turn. This card kind of gives that support for winters, where winters didn't have that many support for the swarm, because it was always getting outswarmed. So the Winter Summonings allows you to help with the discard, and basically just bring them back, basically. So Winter Summonings is a really great card. Next card is the Burning City. This card lasts for 5 turns, and before both players enter their draw phase, they must burn the top card of the deck. So this one's really just trolling, or RNG. Basically, you know, you're potentially removing like certain cards that could be considered top decking, you know. So it kind of plays along with the troll with that, but it's a unique card in my opinion. Next is For Glory. It's a caster card. For the next 2 turns, you and your opponent can only bring 1 unit to the battle area during the battle turn. This is really interesting because it becomes a 1v1, and I feel like this card will definitely have some cool plays when I make my decks here. Next card is the Mighty Secret. When an ally unit falls, you can no longer call an 8/8/8 hero mighty token. Very very strong card in my opinion for a 2 cost, and this is for, could be any deck. However, you'll be summoning a hero mighty token, but an 8/8/8 hero mighty token is super insanely strong. So definitely something to look out for. Next card is super deep impact. Ultimate destroy all cards on the field, and both players must discard their entire hand. So not only does it destroy any cards, even cards that says they cannot be destroyed by effects, because ultimate destroy means destroy everything. Like, it does not matter what their effect is. Then it wipes out that whole entire field, and then not only field, your hand also gets discarded. I don't see that many play with this card, but it is a good card that I would like to see someone use. Next card is Double Trouble. The equipped unit can attack 2 units at the same time. This usually just means that whoever is equipped with a card, let's say like a Gen 4 with a 15 attack, that 15 attack is basically, it's not split, but it deals damage 15 equally. So this card is basically Double Trouble. It's troubling for your opponent because you're dealing 15 to the units. So definitely something that you need to take into consideration and watch out for. The next card is Bamboo Sword. If the unit equipped with this weapon is removed from the battlefield, equip a weapon from your deck to another unit on the field. So this card kind of gives that edge with cards that like to use weapons. So if the equipped unit with this weapon is removed from the field, equip the weapon from your deck to another. So again, you could equip Double Trouble, you could equip Generation Sword, Claymore Sword, like anything there that will help benefit you. Next card is Telekin. You can move a unit from the battle area back to the battlefield. So if your opponent is bringing strong characters into the battle area, you could just bring that boy back out, because you don't want your opponent to be bringing strong monsters, right? So I feel like it's a good way to kind of have that mid-range or even control of the battle area. Next card is Do You Want to Build? Notable call 3 Gen 1 Snowman tokens with 4/0/0 tokens. So that basically is 4 armor, 0 attack, 0 speed. mainly just meant for defense. Next card is Burst. If your opponent plays a unit, negate their effect. Pretty simple. Next card is Roadblock. Your opponent can't play essential cards until their next turn. That one is very interesting one, especially for cast spade decks. I would definitely like to see this as like a swapping cards if they see that they're facing cast spades. Next card is the Dark Cave. You're reoccurring. You have no hand size limit. This could go super insane for decks with draw power. Next card is the Bard's Instrument. When the equipped character falls, gain +10 health. Boom! Just insane health regain and regeneration with this one. Yeah, if you just keep taking damage, especially with the emeralds, as you're setting up, then this is kind of like a good kind of like a reset, basically. The next card is Emerald for Soul. Banish X amount of cards in your hand and a local Gen X Anti-Hero unit from your deck where X is equal to normal cards banished. This one, very self-explanatory. You can just banish 3 units from your hand, and then boom, you can bring on Gen 3 Anti-Hero unit from your deck. So, you know, you gotta be careful on this because there are cards like Banishing Portal. I did use this one time in that one game, and it screwed me over because I lost cards in my hand for a Gen 3, where only for it to be banished with Banishing Portal. So definitely use this with cautious. Next card is Super Deep Aftermath. Well, you cannot play this card during your first turn. If there are no units on the field, both players discard their entire hand and draw 7 cards. So first turn basically just means the beginning of the game. And basically this one is kind of just a good reset for your hand. And finally, the last card in set 4, the Trials. Your opponent or opponents must either banish a card from their hand or the top card of their deck. That's it. Just banish or my bad. Just banish the top or the or your hand. It just kind of forces them to kind of lose a card. And yeah, that is pretty much set 4. There was a lot. I know this video is super long, so if you've watched it all the way through, I appreciate it. If not, I understand. But if you guys really wanted that in-depth, this is the in-depth, uncut, raw, hear me cough and breathe and all that shit. So pretty much that is all. Thank you so much for watching. I do apologize if this is not as edited properly. I feel like I don't want to really edit this one too much. I want you to kind of see like I guess my window explorer and the cards, as well as have the card on the right side. I feel like that's enough for me to kind of showcase. This is more, I guess you could say, podcast format. But other than that, that is all. Thank you so much for watching. I'll go do set 5 in another day, another video. But this is your in-depth review for set 4. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. My name is Jay. I'll see you guys another day. Peace.